Hello, hello. Welcome to the Women Wise podcast.
It's
I am
amazing.
Sara.
Yeah.
I'm Sara Haboubi, and this is my amazing co-host, Janine Lingenfelder. Janine, how are you doing?
I am fantastic. Yeah, welcome everyone. It's so amazing to be back. I always get into the groove when I start hearing our song, and then I can't stop tapping my toes. So tonight we have a fantastic guest, and that is Helen Wales. She's a menopause coach who is dedicated to empowering women in this life stage. So we are really, really, really excited to welcome Helen. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hi, thank you for having me. Looking forward to a good chat about menopause.
I know, right? It's not mental health month for no reason, and I think
Yeah,
this is just
exactly. Yes.
it's perfect. So, Helen, could you share a bit about your personal experience with menopause and how and what inspired you to actually become a menopause coach?
Yeah, sure. So I just turned 50 recently, 2.5 weeks ago.
Congratulations.
I thank
Yay!
you.
Happy birthday.
Joined the club. And I officially became perimenopausal about 2.5, maybe 3 years ago, so 47-ish. But in reality, probably a couple of years before that, but I didn't know what it was, which is a common story. I had all the classic symptoms. For me, it started with fatigue, just constantly tired, falling asleep during the day. I wasn't working at the time, no motivation, just kind of lost all my get up and go, if you like. Anxiety, stopped going out, stopped seeing my friends, sleep problems, irregular cycles, all the classic symptoms. But at the time, I'd never heard of perimenopause until I eventually saw a knowledgeable doctor, and she told me that that's what was happening. And I was like, what's that? I'd heard of menopause, as most of us had, and again, like most of us, I just assumed it's the end of your periods, you're a bit moody, you have some hot flushes, and then that's it. I didn't get the opportunity to chat about my mum to it. She never spoke about it. And yeah, that was it, like 2.5 years ago. And I found it really hard actually at first to kind of accept that that's what it was, because I think we always kind of associated it with getting old, and it only happened when you were older. Typically, in decades gone by, it was always women in their 50s that it happened to, and nobody really spoke about it. So yeah, I had no idea. It was kind of a relief and a bit of a shock, I guess, both at the same time. A relief that I'd found out that, because going back even further, I'd seen a doctor who'd put me on antidepressants and anti-anxiety medication because I'd had anxiety for a number of years, and I did have anxiety. A lot of it was work related because I had a very stressful job. But it didn't work, and I was constantly going back and forth saying, this is not working, I'm not feeling any better. And a couple of years go by, and eventually I saw a very good doctor who said, right, no, we need to get you off of that medication, and talked about
Wow.
HRT. And I was like, yes, please give me the HRT. And I guess it came from there. And also, I lost my mum at the end of 2018, and she'd previously had breast cancer, and they wouldn't give her HRT because back then it was when that WHI study came out and there was all the scares about breast cancer. So she never took HRT, so I never spoke to her about it. And without going into a huge history about my mum, she had a lot of health problems towards last 10, 15 years of her life. And I absolutely firmly believe she would have had a lot better quality of life if she'd had HRT. So a mixture of my own experience and sort of advocating for women like my mum really is kind of what got me into doing it. A lot of it was just my own learning, wanting to know as much as I could about it. And through that, I realized that I'm just one of millions of women who probably feel the same, and just trying to raise awareness and get more information really for other women who it's going to happen to us all. So the more information and the more support there is out there, the better. So I just talk about it as much as I can now to anybody who listens.
So it does seem that awareness around menopause is growing. I mean, we've already
Yes,
had 2 guests on this show because we
yeah,
can't
I've
talk about it
seen them.
enough. And I don't think
Yes,
anyone should
same,
be talking about it. And there's no limit to how
same.
much we should be talking about it.
Yeah.
So why do you think that's happened then? Like, have there been a certain group of people, or, because I'm postmenopausal and I never heard
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
perimenopause, and
Perimenopause. Yeah.
it's amazing how little we actually know about what we're gonna face.
Yeah, it is, and it's a good question, because I often wonder this. I wonder whether it appears to be everywhere just because I'm in the space now, and it's on my feed, and everybody that I talk to is talking about it. There is a growing awareness about it. There's been a lot of celebrities. You've got Davina McCall in the UK, doctors in the US, and lots of people that are talking about it more. So I do think it's gaining momentum, and people are talking about it a lot more. There's a long way to go, but yeah, I do definitely feel that there's more conversations going on about it. I saw just a clip of, have you heard of the M Factor, the film, the documentary that's been made in the US? Yeah, I saw a little clip of it. They'd interviewed a man that had watched it, and he was absolutely blown away. He didn't know anything about it, and he was like, "I'm really sorry, ladies, that you have to go through all of this." And so
that's a really good point. I mean, if we don't know what's going to happen,
exactly,
and what's happening, and then an explanation as to why we feel a bit crazy sometimes, or that depression, or I mean, my thing was aching joints, and I've been here, there, and everywhere, and then I realized this year
it's your hormones.
it's my lack of hormones. It's that depletion.
And I think that's the problem. There are so many different symptoms, and a lot of them are very similar to other things. I mean, at this time of our lives, we've all got busy lives, we've all got stress, we've got careers, jobs, kids, families, whatever. We've all got a lot to deal with, and a lot of it can just be life, and things that have happened to us, burnout, working too hard, stress, anxiety. It can be other things, but when you put them all together, you take all these symptoms and put them all together with your age, and probably your cycles are starting to be irregular. That's where doctors are hopefully now starting to make the connection, and not diagnosing women with anxiety and depression, for example.
Exactly. You mentioned sleep and stress.
Yes.
We don't like stress so much, but we love sleep, and we need sleep. So what are some of the effective strategies for improving sleep quality and really reducing stress during menopause?
Well, I think
my mic over. I got excited there about sleep.
Yeah, me too. So it's my big thing. It's my number one thing. Whenever women speak to me and say, "Please, I need help," I always ask them how do they sleep? Do you sleep? How good is your sleep? How much do you sleep? And sleep has been sort of my focus for the last year. I think when we're younger, we neglect our sleep. We don't need as much sleep. We're up late and sleeping in on weekends, and we tend to just think, "Oh, it's fine. I'll sleep later. I'll sleep next weekend or whatever. We're out and about." But sleep is just absolutely crucial for everything. If I get less than sort of 6 hours sleep, I'm like a bear with a sore head the next day. And it's our sleep pattern is really, really easy to disrupt. There are so many things that affect it. Hormonal imbalances, absolutely. When your progesterone and your estrogen levels start to drop, they also work in tandem with our other hormones, cortisol and adrenaline, and they all help to regulate our sleep cycle. We all have a natural body clock, our circadian rhythms, and they're all different. We're all individual. It's a bit of a myth that we all need 8 hours sleep. I think we've all been sort of conned into this, "Oh, you must get 8 hours sleep or you're going to end up sick or exhausted." And a lot of people do. We've heard of early birds and night owls. Without being too technical, where we have sleep chronotypes. So we all have different sleep needs. Some people can survive perfectly well off 6 hours, others need 9 hours, and lots in between. So there are lots of things that affect it, obviously, stress, families, things that we've just mentioned that can throw our routines out of whack. To get a good night's sleep, you need your body and your mind needs a routine. It needs to know when it's time for bed, when it's time to sleep, when it's time to get up in the morning. And it takes practice and it takes some consistency, but daylight first thing in the morning is crucial. That signals to your brain that it's now time to be awake and be up and to get along with your start on your day, and that triggers cortisol. Your cortisol levels start to rise, and early in the morning and continue to rise during the morning. So that keeps you awake and alert so you can go about your day. Melatonin is the sleep hormone that starts in the late evening when we start to lose the natural light and it starts to get dark, and that's produced naturally in our brains. And things like screens, your phone, your TV, your laptop, they all interrupt and disrupt that cycle. It's kind of signaling your brain that you're still up and there's bright light. So daylight in the morning, absolutely 100%. Do that before. My husband's terrible. The first thing he does in the morning is grab his phone, and he's on his phone in bed in the morning. It's one of the worst things that you can do because it's not natural. You should be trying to get natural light, and it's only 10 minutes. If you don't have a garden, stand on your balcony, open your window, something like that. Just get natural light.
Small
So it's triggering your brain.
Small habits.
Yeah, they're all different habits. Yeah, but a good routine is crucial, and it's not an overnight fix. You have to work out what works for you, really.
Can your sleep pattern sort of, you know, if you've got a type of sleep, can it change? Because as you were talking, I was thinking, I'm much happier to go to bed early now and wake up a bit earlier. Whereas when I was younger, I could be up all night and, you know, do all-nighters at college and, you know, before when I was working.
It does. It changes with age, and it changes as for women, it changes with your hormones as well. So I was exactly the same. I was always a night owl and getting up late. I always slept late on weekends. But I'm the same now. I'm always in bed by about 10 and awake at 5:30, 6 o'clock. So yeah, you can, but getting into that routine and training your brain. There's a lot of people talk about sleep hygiene, which is poo-pooed a little bit by some people. But going to bed at the same time, waking up at the same time, and you're only going to bed when you're sleepy. There's a difference between being tired and being sleepy. We often talk about in the evenings, we crash out on the sofa watching Netflix and we feel exhausted and we feel tired, but we might not be sleepy. So going to bed before you're ready to fall asleep sort of tells your brain that your bed isn't only for sleeping. You might be in bed for a while and you're struggling to get off to sleep. So it's about training your brain that basically your bed is for being asleep and not if you're awake in the morning and you know you're not going to get back to sleep, get up, because your brain will associate that negative association.
I've heard that the snooze button is really bad for you.
Yeah, I don't use it. I actually don't use an alarm, but yeah, it is, because you're in that constant cycle then of dozing, waking, which is not good for your sleep pattern. And
more cranky when you snooze and wake up and stand up, and you're like
exactly,
angry.
I find like on a weekend I do try and stay in bed a little bit later on a weekend, but I often find if I get an extra hour of just napping, I get up with a really thick bad headache and I'm really cranky. Whereas if I just got up, I would be fine.
And maybe have a little power nap in the afternoon, because I have to say, maybe I love my little power nap, a little siesta, a little cheeky one. They're great.
I do love a nana nap in the afternoon.
But what about women though, who no matter what they do, and I do have lots of friends, and it's happened to me on and off, but not consistently. But I've got a few friends who just consistently cannot sleep. It doesn't matter what they've done. They've done meditation, they've done the kind of, you know, routine, they've done everything. But it seems that those hormones, you know, really are not there to actually help with their sleep. So
it can be tricky. People that have chronic sleep problems, sometimes like insomnia is a chronic sleep problem. It could be worth them going to see a sleep expert to analyze exactly what the issue is. But you need to make adjustments to your daytime life as well. What you do during the day also affects the quality and the amount of sleep that you get. Taking exercise during the day, getting outside in nature, breathing exercises. And I know this sounds like you're sort of preaching at people that have tried everything, but it takes a lot of practice for people that have been long-term poor sleepers. It can be really difficult to break that pattern.
Well, I mean, your body can actually forget how to sleep.
It can, yeah. And I was going to say
that happened to me when my second child was born. He didn't sleep for about 16, 17 months.
Yeah.
So that was Yeah,
Yeah,
it took me a
your
while.
body and your mind get into that pattern, and it's about finding ways that break that pattern. And I've spoken to a lot of ladies as well. They a lot of women are okay getting to sleep, but they wake early in the morning and then they really struggle to get back to sleep. And that is a lot of hormones. That's when their cortisol is starting to rise too early, and a lot of that is connected to what you're doing the day before. So you have to also look at what you're doing during the day as well as what you're doing in the evening and at night. It all impacts on that natural cycle. A lot of adjustments need to be made for some people that have chronic sleep problems.
Habits, routine, discipline.
Yeah,
that's all I'm getting.
It is, yeah. It is, yeah. Unfortunately, there's no easy fix, yeah.
So when you work with someone as a menopause coach, what does that look like? Like what's your sort of typical client? What do you typically do with them? It's kind of interesting to know because everyone's got a different approach.
Yeah, they have. Yeah, I mean, one of the first things I genuinely ask is about sleep, because sleep just affects so many things, and it's such a common thing. So I quite often a lot of the first couple of sessions will literally just be trying to coach someone through a process of working out what a better sleep routine is for them. And once you can nail the sleep or improve the sleep, that often improves a lot of the other areas as well. But a lot of women struggle with anxiety and low self-confidence, and just a lot of what people say is they just don't feel like themselves anymore. They don't understand what's happening to them. So a lot of it is mindset work. I think you're NLP master. I think you've done NLP as well.
Trainer.
Yeah. So a lot. It's a lot of that as well, mindset work and change how you think about menopause, and a lot of acceptance work, and just I firmly believe you have to accept what's going on before you can begin to start feeling better and tackling some of the symptoms. A lot of women have so many symptoms and they kind of don't know where to start. They're emotional, they're angry, they've got pains, they've got all sorts of symptoms, but they're also feeling at a loss and not really accepting what's happening. So a lot of it really is mindset work, and trying to work on accepting it, and then finding new strategies of coping with the symptoms. And a lot of women just want to feel understood. Some women come to me and a lot of it is just talking, and sharing experiences and tips and things that they can try and improve. But a lot of people just want to talk about it because they feel like they've got no one else to talk to.
I think there's a real issue, isn't there, of society kind of labeling women as being overly emotional.
Yeah.
And then you get to this stage of your life, and for me, and I won't say the words, but my tolerance for BS disappeared. That was the thing I noticed. I was like, I can't put up with things that I used to put up with when I was younger. It's like that tolerance, the ability is just completely gone. And how do you manage? How can you manage that? Then obviously, sort of that's where coaching really
it does, and
I feel a bit like you've gone a bit mad.
Yeah, you do, and I hear that a lot, and I had that as well. Before I embarked on this journey, I was working in a regular job, and I just came to a point where I'm like, I just don't want to do this anymore, and I needed to do something else. And I think at this stage of life, we have to try and prioritize ourselves. A lot of us, mums and wives, and looking after elderly parents, maybe breadwinners, lots of responsibility, and we put ourselves at the back of the list in terms of taking care of everything. And I don't have kids, so it is a little bit easier for me, perhaps. And I know a lot of women now have kids later on in life, so they've probably still got younger children. So it's not like they can just drop everything and say, no, okay, guys, go and sort yourselves out. But there has to be a level of reprioritizing and bumping yourself up that list a little bit, taking time out if you're exhausted or you feel like you're not coping. I had a shocking day yesterday, and I don't really know why. Hormones, I do know why. Hormones, I had a really shocking day and I just didn't want to do anything. And I had to take some time out and just acknowledge that, okay, it's one of those days. And that's quite fortunate because I work for myself. I know that you can't do that if you've got a busy job, kids and what have you. But at the same time, you do have to take that time, recognize what's going on. If you just continue pushing yourself, you're going to be exhausted and burn out and have some kind of breakdown. Reach out for support, talk to someone, speak to a coach, speak to a friend, speak to a family member. Talking about it is a huge part of it. I feel instantly better talking about how I'm feeling. I'm naturally an introvert. I don't talk. I don't really tell my husband what's going on. He probably has no idea about half of my symptoms. I just naturally keep things to myself. But when I do talk about it, I feel so much better. And I think it's just talking about how you feel and shouting, putting your hand up and saying, I need some help. And asking people for help. You're an important part of somebody's family, somebody's life. At work as well. I mean, menopause at work is a whole other topic, but you're an important part. Yeah, you're an important part of somebody's workforce. So unfortunately, you have to advocate for yourself now. You have to talk about it for yourself.
Yeah. You talk a lot about talking about it, but what resources and support do you offer as a menopause coach to women who's going through this?
So I offer a free session first off, and it's not time limited. So anyone who just wants a bit of initial advice, to the same as me and a lot of women, you might not even know if it is perimenopause. You might think it is. You might have been dismissed by your doctor. You've been keeping an eye on your symptoms. So I offer a free session to find out if I'm a suitable fit as well, because we don't all get on. And then I do singular personalized sessions, and it depends what they come to me with. I don't have a program. It's not this, and this. It's absolutely personalized to whatever the lady wants help with. I have a coaching package as well for people who might have quite a lot of symptoms and they need help in a lot of areas. I do workshops. I recently did a coffee morning, which was wonderful. We had a lovely small group of women and had a couple of hours just chatting about menopause. But I also do corporate workshops as well. So I'm trying to raise awareness and educate employers. And I do women-only sessions, because obviously where we live, there's cultural differences and people are not comfortable talking about it. So I do women-only educational sessions, but then I also do sessions for leaders and people that have more responsibility of their employees' health and well-being as well. And again, they're not fixed. They're all personalised to whatever the business needs. So, but yeah, I'm happy to have a free chat with anybody because I just like talking about it.
It's really interesting actually, because obviously the age generally that a woman goes through menopause and perimenopause, and then I didn't even know that menopause was just one day, and from that
I know.
from then on it's post, but you don't know your post until it's a year.
You don't know
any of this stuff. And I'm 3 years post, so at this stage, this was all new to me after the event. So I was very late, kind of coming into the knowledge. But what's really interesting is because of the age of most women when they're going through this, is that they are actually probably at the peak of their professional lives.
Exactly.
They've climbed the ladder. They've gone through all of that. And many women actually quit, don't they, their jobs. They just can't handle it. And so the industry or the business is losing all of that experience, all of that wisdom. As you said, a kind of a key person maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember all the statistics, but I know that women 45 to 55 are the largest growing demographic in the workplace globally, I believe. And I think it's something like 1 in 10 women actually do leave, and 1 in 4 consider leaving because of the symptoms are so severe, or they don't feel like they've got the support, or they feel like they would be discriminated against if they raised it. So yeah, it is a real problem. And as you said, women are at the peak of their careers at this age, and businesses, and the cost of recruitment for replacing these women and the knowledge that's lost, it really is a loss to the businesses.
So what do sort of the more enlightened businesses, what have you seen them do? Is there some sort of provision that they make for these women? Like how can they help to retain these women and really support them through this? Because it's not forever, and if they get the right help, they can get through it. It's not like that's the end of it for the rest of their lives.
I mean, there are some practical things, just like having fans on desks, having rooms where you can go if you just need a break for 10, 15, 30 minutes. If you're having a bit of anxiety, if you're having a hot flush and you don't want the rest of the office to see, having a breakout room or somewhere private that's available. But having support that's not your line manager, because a lot of people will not feel comfortable or not able to speak to their line manager. So maybe it might be someone in HR, depending on how large the organization it is, someone who is a menopause champion, if you like, that they can go and speak to and explain how they're feeling. And there are obviously women in the workforce. It's a growing demographic, but there are still a lot of places that are mostly male dominated, and women just don't feel comfortable talking about it. So if they know that there is one person within the organization that they can safely and confidentially speak to about what's happening to them, maybe take a flexi day, flexible working, coming in late if they've not slept well and they need a couple of hours to get themselves going in the morning, flexible working from home. Lots of really simple things that you can do. I mean, I know here the law is much different to what it is back in the UK, for example. There are no specific laws around menopause, but every employer has a duty of care to their employees. So it could be something that they could write into their own policies, for example, about flexible hours, about taking days off, menopause days, or whatever you want to call it. And some of them do. There are not many. There are a lot that are open to the flexible hours or starting late or having a room or something like that where you can go. There are not so many just yet that are writing into their policies, but hopefully things will start to change.
That's the hope. That's the hope.
Yeah,
so talk about future menopause support. What do you see as the future of menopause support and resources? You've touched on a little bit.
Yeah, so hopefully the conversation is going to keep going now. As we've mentioned, we had the first GCC Menopause Summit last Friday, which was...
Oh, how did it go?
Oh, it was it was fantastic. There was so many speakers. I think there was close to 400 women in the audience and a few men as well that were there, and dozens and dozens of speakers, doctors, wellness experts, nutritionists, PTs, a whole plethora of different people talking about.
Will this be an annual thing? Is this?
I hope so. Yeah, I've
seen
something.
Yeah, there was a lot of buzz around it.
There was, yeah, and I saw something on their social media a couple of days ago about next year. So hopefully that it will continue, and hopefully there will be more things like that, not just that be the only thing. But I just think it's so important for. I mean, the medical industry is obviously a long way behind in terms of women's health in general, but it was really good to see a lot of doctors there who were specializing in women's health, gynecologists, and even a couple of male doctors there who were sort of championing the cause. So I just really hope that it will continue now, and it's not just this one step in time and then everybody forgets about it. I just think if we all continue to raise the awareness, continue doing community workshops, encourage employers to have these workshops, support their female employees, and understand the impact that it can have on them. Women feeling more able to talk about it openly, because I think, as we said right at the start, it's been this topic that people have always shied away from talking about. So I think we just really need to keep the ball rolling and just not let it drop.
I think one of the other things as well is you can never start too early with this conversation with women.
No, absolutely.
Well. And obviously, as with like teenagers, they've all got mums. I mean, I've got teenage sons. Well, one's an adult supposedly.
Yeah.
But so I've got the pleasure of going through menopause and tackling
with a teenager. Yeah.
Teenage years, thinking, really, nature's pretty cruel to kind of, clash those two.
Yeah.
But I think, having teenagers understanding what their mums are going through, because the
mums
absolutely probably don't know. I mean, I think this is the big thing, is you're going through something, you don't even know what it is. You can't even talk to your kids or your teenage daughters about it. So I think having that awareness really early on to go, well, actually, mum could be really struggling.
And I think we seem to be sort of the first generation that is talking about it. So I hope that trickles downwards to the next generations to come. I mean, the education that I remember at school about puberty and periods was probably about an hour, and that was it.
It was basically how to not have a baby. I think that was kind of
basically
and the gist of it.
About a 10 or 15 minute chat with your mum, what's going to happen, and then crying on her shoulder when it did happen, and that's kind of it. So I mean, obviously, I have no idea what happens in schools. I don't have kids. There are so many different things now that kids are taught, but
definitely not about this.
No,
Definitely not
exactly.
about
And I don't, is it right? I don't know. Is it too young to talk about it in school, perhaps?
Well,
But
I think the fact that it's natural and it's something that
yeah,
all women, if they live long enough, are going to go through
yeah,
this.
yeah.
And if your mum is kind of acting a bit weird and she doesn't even know
What's
why,
going on
you
with
know,
mum? Yeah,
I think
yeah.
having that kind of compassion and an understanding that
Just
actually
the
this is not mum,
awareness of
it's
it.
not
Yeah,
mum going crazy.
yeah.
Make
You
a
don't
big
have to go
difference.
into all the details of it, but I think just
Yeah,
having an
an
awareness of,
awareness of this is going to happen because it is going to happen,
yeah.
and also not just that, but it does happen to some women a lot younger. I've met a couple of women recently who are in menopause in their mid-30s, and I know it happens much younger for a percentage of women as well. So the awareness for them, obviously, it's a huge shock if it happens in your 20s and your 30s. You're not expecting anything like that, so. Yeah, I don't see why it shouldn't be talked about in schools
I
or
think make
certainly
it,
that
you know,
those
just make it
teenage years.
a natural, yeah, just a
It's
natural part of
normal. It's yeah,
say, yeah,
exactly. You go through
normalize it. Let's
puberty
not,
and then you're going to go through menopause. So
but
yeah,
just to, you know,
yeah.
sort of take away that mystery of it and take away that
The
kind of
mystery
that
of ooh,
embarrassment of,
what's
yeah, you know,
menopause? Yeah,
and sort of the jokes aspect of it. It's like, oh, you know, I mean, I used to
yeah,
make jokes about myself, like, oh, I'm having a bit of a
yeah,
menopausal moment, you know,
yeah,
which was
yeah,
genuine. I'd go halfway up the
yeah.
stairs and think,
Forget what you're
what,
doing. Yeah.
why
What it
was I
was
going?
like.
I've
Why am I
literally
here?
no
Yeah,
idea, no idea,
yeah.
completely gone.
Yeah, but that's the good side of it. You should be able to talk about it naturally and normally like that and have a laugh about it. And I think that takes some of the pressure off as well if you're able to put a little bit of humor in it as well, instead of sort of hiding and pretending and feeling guilty or embarrassed that you've forgotten something. Just be open about it. And yeah, I think raising awareness when you're younger, you know what to expect, sort of. It's not a huge shock. And you don't hear this word perimenopause at the age of 47 and you've never heard of it before.
Yeah,
Exactly.
and the symptoms are so for some people are so horrific, and
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
touched on. Sorry, Janine, to cut across you there, but
Mhm.
you touched on. You know, it was great to see sort of doctors, gynecologists, but I think
Mm,
GPs are the first port of call for most women, and if
absolutely. Yeah.
GP doesn't recognise that actually,
Yeah. Yeah.
look at the age of the
Yeah.
woman.
And the
There's a whole list of
symptoms. Yeah.
symptoms. If they're
Yeah.
ticking a few of those
A
symptoms, and
few of
like
those boxes. Yeah.
you know, because I went before I came here, I was in Ireland, and I went just before I came. This is last year, and they just said to me, "We're not even going to bother doing any blood tests.
Mm.
We're just gonna give you the package of the HRT.
That's exactly what I
You know,
got. Yeah.
just
Yeah.
there's no point because you're you know it's up and down throughout the month, so it's
Yeah.
very difficult to know kind of. But they went,
Mm.
your age. This is you know
Mm.
this is what's going on for you,
And that's how
and
it should be.
yeah, and it was such a
That's
relief
how
to
it
go,
should be.
Exactly.
oh, is
Yeah.
this what it is? Because you do
Yeah.
think that there's something very
Yeah.
serious.
There's
There could
something
be,
wrong.
yeah, you
Yeah.
do worry. Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. But
And I think
that's exactly how it should be.
exactly. And I think this is also one of the questions I have is the myths, because there's so many. Can you share some of the common misconceptions about menopause that could be
Yeah.
addressed in some way?
So I mean a lot of women and men associate it with women that are much older in your 50s and it's just the end of your periods and that's it. They think it's just hot flushes, maybe a few mood swings. Gosh, what else? It's I can't think of any more myths. That you can't get pregnant while you're going through menopause, which you absolutely can. And I've seen a few women on some social media groups that have had babies in their late
Goodness,
40s.
menopause babies. Oh
Yeah, your menopause
wow.
babies, can you imagine?
Oh,
Yeah, there are so
No.
many misconceptions, and a lot of people think it's just a handful of symptoms, like the typical
Mm.
ones we spoke about, the hot flushes, the mood swings, a bit of brain fog, but it's just so much more, and we probably don't even know all of the symptoms. I get tinnitus, I get really dry skin, my hair's awful, I get joint pains, I get burning feet, and I think a lot of men, I don't want to stigmatize men, but a lot of men might just think, oh, she's menopausal, oh, it's her hormones, oh, she's just playing on this thing. And they don't realize the huge impact it has on you. It's a huge change for us, and we're coming to terms with all of these things that are going on. And for a lot of women, it can. I don't like to use the term grief lightly because grief is a huge thing and very different for everybody. But for women who've maybe not being able to, or have struggled to get pregnant and not being able to have babies, to get to the end of their reproductive years, it can be really upsetting and quite a traumatic time as well. So I think it's often taken lightly by a lot of society, and just kind of, oh, it's just something that happens to women and they just need to get on with it and get through it and get over it, when actually it's a pretty big thing. It's quite a big thing. It's an upheaval, and it affects you, it affects your partner, it affects your family, it affects your work, it affects all of your life. It's not just this sort of trivial thing that happens for a few months when you hit 50 and that's it.
And I think, I mean, you touched on it at the beginning, which was, HRT obviously is, for many women, an absolute lifesaver.
A lifesaver, yeah.
Some women don't want to take it though, so there are alternative methods. There are alternative things you can do. It's not one size fits all. But I think that thing of, especially for older women, probably more in their 60s, 70s now, maybe even 80s. There was that stigma, or not stigma, but there was the fears around HRT, and a lot of women were just taken off it without any replacement. And
that's what happened to my mum.
I believe a lot of depression, a lot of suicide probably happened after that, because they just
100%. 100%. That's exactly what happened to my mum. I think she started on HRT for a few months. She didn't talk about it, so I'm just relying on my memory from 20 odd years ago. But she started on HRT and then got breast cancer, and they immediately took it off her, and that was it. She never went back on it. She was never offered anything else. And she suffered with awful anxiety for the remainder of her life, and various other health problems, which could have, I will never know, but could have been linked to menopause. I have no idea. I won't ever know. But yeah, I mean, her quality of life from the age of about 50 to when she passed away at 69 was not good. And I'm pretty sure it would have been a hell of a lot better if she'd been able to have HRT. Back then, unfortunately, it was the synthetic, it was the tablet form, it was the synthetic HRT. So obviously now things have advanced, and we've got the body identical HRT now, which is very safe. But yeah, I mean, some women choose not to use it, and some women still are advised not to take it for various different health reasons. But there are other things. HRT is the first line, and it's very, very effective for many, many women. And I think it should be offered to every woman that is eligible for it, and let them decide if they want to take it or not, weigh up the perceived risks and the benefits for it. But there are other things, lifestyle changes, food, your diet, exercise, are all things that we all know we should do and perhaps don't, but it does work. And HRT on its own doesn't work as well as it could. You have to make those lifestyle adjustments as well. If you've got a really crappy diet, then your hormone replacement therapy is not going to work as well as it should. So we all need to do those things as well. You can balance your hormones naturally to a degree through your food and your exercise and your lifestyle. So it's a holistic thing. That's what I always say. There's not just one. It's not HRT is not a magic pill. It's part of a whole thing.
For some women, it is. For some women, it is
for some,
absolutely a lifesaver, and they go on it. And when it starts working, they just go, "How was I surviving?" Without.
I mean, that's kind of, for me, it really, really helped me with the fatigue and the motivation and the sleep. Those were the big three things for me. So it absolutely was the magic pill for those things for me. But I did also make lifestyle adjustments. I was, like I was saying before, I was always to bed late, going out on the weekend, brunching, drinking after work, and gradually just had to realize that I had to make changes as well to feel better.
It's almost as if we get tipped into this. I mean, women's bodies are very kind of imbalanced. They're very delicate anyway. Our endocrine systems are completely different from
very
men's.
Delicate system.
And I'll have to share something. I just had this sense for quite some time, even though I only had 1, maybe 2 cups of coffee a day, that caffeine was probably not my friend.
And
it took me 3 or 4 days of headaches and everything else to get past it. But I've noticed a massive difference in me since I gave up coffee. Like, I feel better, I'm sleeping better. I had one accidental cup of coffee one day, 9 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock the following morning, I was still wide awake.
Really? Wow.
And I just went, okay, my body's so hypersensitive to it now.
Hypersensitive. It's hyperarousal. Yeah, it can. It's hyperarousal, and that obviously affects your sleep as well. But I did the same. I weaned myself off it. I only ever had 1 a day. Occasionally I might have 2, but I paid for it, and then I went down to half caff. and now I drink decaf. And
I went cold turkey. Cold
turkey.
Cold turkey. So I was only having one cup anyway. But I was waking up in the morning, and the first thought was, I can't wait for my coffee.
My coffee.
And I was like, that's not normal. It's like, that's not a good way to be. So I thought there's something going on where I feel as if I can't get going without it. So it's quite interesting.
And same for alcohol as well. Same with alcohol. Yeah, I know it's a sore subject for a lot of people. I know. I mean, I've not cut it out completely. I'm not going to lie. I do still have occasional drink, but I've hugely cut down on what I used to drink. So, and I did stop for a few weeks just to kind of prove to myself that I could do it. And now I'll just have a glass of wine or a beer instead of 3, 4, 5 or 6, and that's it. I think it's just the combination, like I was saying, it's the combination of the changes that you make.
It's not just one thing.
Not just one thing in isolation. So cutting out the coffee, cutting down on your alcohol, trying to get your sleep pattern regulated, doing a bit of exercise, working on your diet. It all works together.
And I think also what's quite important with all of this is to take record of how it was and what you're doing and what you've changed 100%. To have data to realize, okay, this is actually working for me, and also share that with your coach or someone that you trust with this conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And that I always encourage that. So I always encourage women, if anyone comes to speak to me and they haven't yet been to their GP, because some women are a bit scared to go see their GP, or they might have already been dismissed by another one, or wait lists, wait times, whatever. I encourage them to keep a symptom diary, first of all, of what they're experiencing, track their cycles, track their symptoms, and by that I mean anything that they've not had before, anything that's new. So it could be hot flushes, it could be headaches, it could be sleep problems, it could be joint aches, any of the myriad symptoms that we have. Keep a diary, and it could just be writing it on a piece of paper, or there are a lot of apps now that are actually dedicated for menopause symptoms. So keep a tracker of your symptoms. Doesn't have to be for ages, couple of months.
I think
then
it's
you're armed.
because you just, and especially when things other things start coming in.
Yes, and you forget, because they're not. You don't get them all the time, so you forget, and then it'll reappear, and you're like, oh yeah, I had that.
I had a very weird start to my kind of joint pain. So this is a good 10 years ago, at least, because I kind of went into perimenopause probably quite early, before I hit menopause, which was my feet would hurt in the morning. So the joints in my feet, and I'd get out of bed and I think, what is going on? And then I'd walk for a bit and it would kind of ease off. But that was actually, when I look back, that was actually the start, of the inflammation, the joint pain. And then it moved up into my hand and my shoulder. And I mean, and I get, of course, I had no idea. And you
wouldn't, something like that, you wouldn't. So and as things can come and go, you might have something for a couple of weeks and then it'll disappear and then it'll come back. So it's really, really important for your own sanity as well to realize that you're not going crazy and you're not imagining. You're not imagining it, but also go armed with this information to your GP, and you've got more chance then of them listening to you and being serious about what you're saying to them. I read somewhere recently, I can't remember where it was, about a lady who had done all of this. She went with these symptoms. She had four or five symptoms, and she was perimenopause, age 46, 47, but she wasn't having hot flushes, and her doctor dismissed her, and it's not perimenopause, because it was obviously on their list of symptoms that you have to have if it's supposed to be perimenopause. And
because I didn't really have I didn't have those.
I didn't either. So, and some women never get them. So, but
that's crazy,
going back, keeping trackers before your symptoms. But then if you do see a coach, you do see a GP, you're seeing a dietitian, nutritionist, PT, whatever it is that you're working on, keep your progress, keep a log of your progress. It's so important, because you might not feel like you're getting anywhere, but then if you can just look back at where you started and see, it might just be tiny baby steps, but you are making those improvements. So it's
for myself as well, is Sara will know this, I couldn't sleep, I didn't eat, I had a thing against chewing, and then recently I started being a little bit more active, walking more, going to the gym, I was so surprised that I'm sticking to the gym and my routine. And I realized that, okay, I'm making these changes. I'm making notes about this. And all of a sudden I'm eating 3 to 4 times a day, which is
you never told me that, Janine. I'm so happy to hear that.
It's mind-blowing, and it's also coming back to being disciplined and keeping yourself accountable for these actions, because it's about your life, it's about your health, and making those changes.
You have to do it for yourself. It's a big step, and it's a big thing. It's a big commitment, and we've got so many other things going on. It can feel really daunting when somebody says to you, okay, these are the things that you need to do, and you might think, there's no way that I can do that.
Can you give me another 12 hours a day, and then I'll fit them in?
Exactly.
So I always think, I just don't have enough hours in a day.
Yeah, because I mean, sometimes you try to say to someone as gently as possible, well, just 20 minutes or just 30 minutes of gentle exercise. And like, I've got time to do that. And a lot of people really believe that they haven't, but
they believe that,
prioritizing yourself. Yeah, it is the mindset.
I mean, since I started this whole thinking healthy and doing active stuff, even my husband and child, they happy to be around me, which is a good thing. So it's all those small changes that makes a quality life at the end of the day, because it's not just about you. Yes, you are important, but it's the people around you that
people around you as well, of course. Yeah, because as we've said many times, it affects everybody around us. And if you're grumpy, you're anxious, you're emotional, you're upset, it affects everybody. And these things do work. No, I was talking about that earlier with someone else, actually. But yeah, I mean, the small changes is so important, because then it kind of snowballs. You start feeling a little bit better, and you think, oh, this is working. And then you try something else, and you try something else. And eventually you're getting into this routine.
There's really nothing like that moment when you suddenly realize you feel better.
You feel better, yeah.
Because it is gradual. It's not going to happen overnight. You know, whatever you're taking, whatever you're doing, your body's going to take time to kind of readjust.
Not a sprint.
No.
But I mean, when I realized I was sleeping through the night better, which was after the coffee actually went, I have to say, like, that really did make a big difference for me. And I don't have as many aches and pains. And I was thinking, gosh, that's amazing that sort of, obviously caffeine was a really kind of big inflammatory, component for me. But yeah, it was almost like I woke up one morning and went, oh, I've actually slept properly. I don't remember. I didn't wake up in the night.
Didn't wake up. Yeah.
And it's such a great feeling to go, God, I actually feel
rested. And I think you can get a bit disheartened, obviously, as we all do, when things don't work as quickly as you want them. And especially if you're really desperate, if you like sleep. So a lot of women are really, really desperate because they just don't sleep. So you might try something and it doesn't work, and you just give in straight away because you think, but it is discipline, it's consistency, and you have to give things time to work.
So can you tell us a success story then, someone that you worked with that really, used
I wanted to ask that.
Did I beat you to it? Sorry, Janine.
You did.
So, yeah, I mean, I feel like I'm beating a drum about sleep, but it was about sleep, and it's not an easy thing to fix in some ways, but in a lot of ways it is, because a lot of people don't realize some of the things that they do affect their sleep. So yeah, I had a lady who, she used to get in bed very early on a night, which was causing her brain to think that it was time to sleep when it actually wasn't. So she was getting in bed to do her work, she was getting in bed to read, she was getting in bed and scrolling on her phone, and then she was waking up like 3 a.m. in the morning and then couldn't get back to sleep. So we just had to pare everything back and look at what she was doing during the day. Look at her morning routine, look at her exercise, look at what she was doing in the evenings, and it probably took about a month actually to really pare it all back and get her into a set routine, recognizing the importance of getting daylight in the morning, not scrolling on your phone in bed, not watching TV in bed. And she does sleep through the night now. She sometimes WhatsApps me and say, yeah, I've had another good night's sleep. So yeah, I will always bang the sleep drum because it's just so important. So I just say don't dismiss some of the techniques that some people will say if it doesn't work for the first couple of nights. I used to sleep poorly. No, I've been quite lucky that it's not always been prolonged, but I have had bouts throughout my life of few months of waking up in the night or not being able to fall asleep and then getting anxious about not sleeping, and then it's a vicious cycle. So I've had to change my routine as well. So it does work. It's, like you said, consistency and finding what works for you. It's sometimes trial and error.
Yes,
I think as we said, it's the recognizing what it is first.
Yeah.
Understanding that all these symptoms, I mean, they may not be menopause. Obviously, it's, as you said, important to go to the doctor.
Yeah. It's important to get checked for everything else. Yes.
You know, but if it boils down that this is what it is, first of all, I think for me it was a huge relief. I just went, is this what it is? Okay,
finally.
now I know. I know where I'm starting from. I'm not kind of in the dark trying to figure out, you know, seeing all these different specialists, none of whom said to me, do you know what, this could well be menopause. They all were treating the symptoms, but not my age and not the kind of combination. They weren't looking at a kind of a holistic kind of picture. Do you work then with other people that you send people to, like for, you know, different types of physical therapy or nutrition, or, you know, or is this something that you...
Yeah, so there are a couple of girls who I actually just met quite recently, who they are both PTs, and one of them is also a nutritionist as well, and one of them is a specialist in gut health, which is a whole other topic, but also connected to menopause. And I've got a very good friend of mine who's a PT as well, and she specializes. All of her fitness classes, either personalized or in groups, are for menopausal women. They're all women of a certain age. So so we kind of all connect and chat about the ladies that we see, and it's nice to have a community of people that are supporting women in their own areas, because there are so many different sides to it. So yeah, it's nice.
So what's next for Helen Wales? Are there any webinars or events coming up? What's next in your world?
So the next thing I'm doing, I haven't finished it yet. I'm putting it together. I'm going to do a webinar for men to learn about menopause. After I did my event last week, all of the women at the end said, "Please, can you do something for our husbands?" So so that's the next thing. I'll probably do it online. I'm trying to work out what. Then obviously I need to get the audience and find out when they're available, and they're always busy as well, dads and working men. So I have to work out when's the best time to do it. But it'll probably be a webinar, and just how they can support us more, explain to them what it is, explain to them that we don't know what's going on, and that we just need their understanding and support, and not have them try to fix everything for us.
I think it's so important. And I know, you know, someone, so Louise Newsom in the UK, you know, she really did break a lot of ground with this. She's spoken to men, and she speaks to men. You know, so her podcast
really important.
is excellent, and speaking to famous people who are going through it, and you know, because you go, well, you know, we're all human, and all the women are, you know, kind of going to go through this.
None of us can escape it.
I think one of the things for me personally is actually to celebrate it. I actually feel like it's a big achievement, and I've lived long enough to kind of be here, and I'm working through it, and I think, you know, we have wisdom in our kind of, you know, in this stage in life. It is
I didn't when I first found out. I admit I didn't. For a few months I was like, oh my God, what's happening? But I absolutely do now. 100%. And it's a time of positive change for us now. I've done so much in the last couple of years, more than I've done in the last 10 years, probably, working on myself, starting my business, connecting with women like you and lots of other women, and I feel so much better now than I have done for probably 5, 6, 7 years. So 100%.
I love that. It's the small things that we have to celebrate,
no
matter how small they are.
Definitely.
Exactly.
You can get a different mojo. It's not you getting mojo back. It's a new menopause mojo.
Change your mojo.
I love that menopause mojo.
You know, because if you kind of, once you've got past that, because there is a sense of grief, because it's, you know, that's kind of where seen as our function is just kind of, you know, to have children, and if you didn't have any, or if your kids have grown up and left, there is almost a weird sense of like, well, what's what am I about?
What's next? What am I doing?
What's this for? But I think once you get past that and you kind of go to that acceptance stage,
exactly, it's all the acceptance.
I think the next phase definitely is to celebrate, and absolute massive congratulations for your summit. I mean, it was a huge achievement. It was the first one in the region.
It was so good. It was so it was so nice to just listen to all the other experts and the doctors and the wellness professionals, and it was just a really full-on day, but just so much
must have been
knowledge
very
sharing.
uplifting. I can imagine it being very uplifting.
It was,
and when you see those light bulb moments in the audience as well, so they just go, oh, it's not just me. It's not just me.
I found my tribe.
A hall full of menopausal women.
But it's exciting to know
that. Nightmare.
It's exciting to know that they're talking about 2025 summit. So that's exciting. Right. Maybe we can even be there as Women Wise podcast and have conversations. With people.
Next time.
Who knows?
For sure. So where can people find you? So if they want to come and have a chat with you, where's the best place?
So I'm probably Instagram is the best place. So at Helen Wales Coaching. My website is the same name. I'm actually just getting my rebranding done, which should be ready in a couple of weeks. I have a Facebook page for my business. I also have a Facebook group for perimenopausal women to join and share their experiences and get some tips and support and advice. But Instagram or WhatsApp, I'm happy to share my number. But amazing. Just like to have a chat if anyone just wants to have a chat.
Amazing insights shared. Helen, thank you so much for being our guest. It was absolutely
thank you for having me on. Thank you.
Can't believe an hour it's gone.
No, I know, that's gone really fast.
Yet again, because we have amazing
guests. Talk about it for another hour.
Well, definitely. This is what we always find. We're like, come on, we could definitely do a bit more, but we can't because we always we limit it to an hour. But definitely, it would be lovely to have you back on again at some point in the future, whenever
I'd love to.
Whenever you've got another event and you want to come on and let more people know about it. It'd be great.
Yeah.
More than welcome. Indeed.
Thank you. Indeed. I really enjoyed it.
Great. So, and thank you to those who there's only one watching live, but that's okay. But normally the recordings have a great viewing. So anyone watching the recording, thank you so much for supporting us. And if you would like to support Janine and I on our journey with Women Wise, there is a link underneath this video where you can buy us a cup of coffee. Not that I drink coffee anymore, so it's not a real cup of coffee. But just we're taking our podcast bigger and better. We want to reach as many people as possible. We want to speak to even more amazing women here in Dubai, who have a very powerful message and who are really inspiring to other women here.
Absolutely. Quite excited for the future. So watch this space. And once again, thank you so much, Helen, and our listeners and our supporters. Have a great evening.
Absolutely. And we'll see you next week.
Indeed.